appreciate it. So today our second lecture. So last week we finally finished our first week. I hope it was useful for you all. Okay, and you got a bit more information. And please let me remind you all. So last week we did not do any workshop. Okay, but from this week we will have workshop. So therefore, before coming to the seminar, we have to read those workshop materials, which we are going to discuss at the end of the seminar. Okay? I think you have already seen that workshop material, which is not difficult to understand. Yeah? Okay, good. So, today, we are going to discuss one of the most important, contemporary issues in global economics, which is poverty and global inequality. All right? So before we start the lecture, let me give you some statements. I believe that you know this person, Adam Smith, right? Father of economics. So he states, no society can surely be flourishing and happy, of which by far the greater part of the numbers are poor and miserable. So what does he mean by saying that? He means that no matter how society rich is, okay? If you get that per capita, we know what per capita means, which does not consider the distribution of goods, yes? If you see in a country that per capita is too high, all right, maybe number one, but income inequality is very high, it means that minority in the society, they are living very rich, while the majority not. So he says that if the society is that way, well, it doesn't matter how big is the GDP is or GDP per capita is, that society will not flourish. All right? Will not flourish. So on the other hand, I believe you know this person is the president of World Bank, yes, Jim Yong Kim. So he says, and according to some goals of World Bank, so they want to end, they plan to end the poverty level by 2030. They would like, and they want to reduce it to 3%. And another one is they are trying to elevate, the income levels of those poorest 30%. When World Bank Group, they decided to do it based on their survey, on their analysis, they were predicting that by 2030 they will be able to reduce it, which was about in 2010. But you know, after 2010, what happened? There are a lot of uncertainties happening, right? For example, after 2011, in the Middle East, you know the situation, what happened, right? So, which means that World Bank, those analysts, were not encountering or considering those issues. All right? Which means if those things did not happen, most probably, World Bank could reach their goal. But now, most likely, they will not reach their goal. They will not be able to reduce poverty level to 3% by 2030. Okay? And you know that UNDP, United Nations Development Program, they have development goals, yes? Development goal. And number one comes what? No poverty. End poverty. Following by hunger and other health issues. Alright? Good. So, what about the definition of poverty? Every individual, as we talked about last time, I said, if you want to define globalization, everyone has his or her own perception of globalization. Poverty too. Maybe some people think that poverty is, a person is considered to be poor if he sits in the street and begs for money. Actually, if you check, maybe that person who begs the money is richer than me and you, maybe. Okay? So therefore, again, if you really want to know what poverty is actually, you must ask that really poor person. Okay? For example, a lady from Uganda, she gives the following definition. So poverty is when one person is poor, she has no say in public, she feels inferior, she has no food, so there is famine in her house, no clothing, and no progress in her family. Most probably you all agree with this one, right? The person has no food, no clothing, has problem with the housing. It's really poverty that we understand. So another person from Uganda, he gives very sensitive, definition. Don't ask me what poverty is because you have already met it outside my house. When person asks that person to just look at my house, just count the holes that you see, and look at the utensils that I'm using, and look at my clothes, and just write what you see. It is poverty. Okay? So there are many types of poverty, definitions that you can give. Alright. If we draw our attention to some statistics, alright? And if we compare poverty level of today with the poverty level of the past, today poverty level, the poverty level has reduced significantly. Of course, its share, but the population is also growing. The share of poor people today is much less compared to the past. But still, the number of poor people today is so huge. Okay? So many people are considered to be poor. For example, according to 2010 data, there were more than 1.2 billion people who were living under absolute poverty line. Okay? Absolutely poor people. So from our last week lecture and seminar, you're already familiar with PPP, right? That PPP measures. So now, we are saying that 1.2 billion people, 1.2 billion people, they belong to this group of people whose earning is less than $1.25 measured in 2005 PPP. So let's suppose in Uzbekistan, if you have $1.25 now in your pocket, is it enough? Can you survive for one day? No, why not? I can. $1.25, I can go to any shop because for that one it's about 12,000. Yes, I can buy 10 bread, just eat bread, and drink water. It's very sufficient for me, no problem, right? But when we are saying that $1.25 measured in BP, we don't mean only food. Okay? Not only food. It includes everything that is necessary to survive. Housing, health care, clothing. Okay? And now you calculate how much your average spending for one day. You wake up in the morning, you have breakfast, you have lunch, you have dinner, and you have transportation fee, and you clothes, the clothes that they are wearing, take the average price per day. And calculate the average price of housing with all of those bills. It's much greater than 1.25. Okay? 1.25. So these people, 1.2 billion people are living, okay, in that absolute poverty level. Situation is too bad, which means they are hardly able to survive. Okay? And if we take into account people who are living per day $2 US, the number is 2.4 billion. Okay? 1/3 of the world they are living, and their daily salary less than $2. Less than $2. So, again, you must keep in mind it is in PPP, actually, in terms of consumption of physical goods. Okay? Good. And what about the issue of income inequality? Income inequality. This one also, okay, the biggest problem, look. So, globally poorest 20%, which we are saying the 1.2 billion people, okay? If you collect all of their income, okay, consider, it makes only 1.5% of global income. Only 1.5. 1.2 billion people, they are receiving only 1.5% of total income. Alright? And we have very rich people, right? If we consider those top 10% richest people, top 10%, and if they mutually all agree donate 2% of their income, 2%, just give for those people who are living under poverty line, their life will significantly improve. They will be above poverty line. Okay? That's sufficient to break that total poverty gap. Okay? So whether those rich people are willing to do it or not, it's the question, right? Some of them are doing, and publicly showing that they're very generous people. Some people are not doing it anyway. Okay? Good. So now we'll consider wealth inequality. I'm saying income inequality and wealth inequality. These two are very different. Okay? How are they different? Income inequality and wealth inequality. Let's suppose two individuals, okay? Individual 1 and individual 2. And let's say in Uzbekistan, both of them, they earn 10 million soon per month, which indicates their income is exactly the same. Their education level is the same. They're working in one place, okay? Regarding income inequality now, these both are same. There is no income inequality. But the difference is, this person is the son of a billionaire, okay, who inherited billions of dollars, okay? Billions of dollars. So now, if you look and compare based on their wealth, now there is high level of wealth inequality, okay? He is a billionaire and he is just surviving with his 10 billion living. He is very happy, but he is super happy because he was born with a golden spoon in his mouth. Okay? Good. So if you look at the data, around 80% of the world's people have just 6% of world wealth. If you consider the 80%, which is more than 5 billion people, if you just consider all of their wealth, multiply all, you get the sum. Okay? So they possess only 6%. And another one, if you just pick up 80 individuals, okay, those richest in the world, so if you get their wealth put on one side of the scale and collect from this 3.5 billion of people their wealth and put, and then the scale is the same. Okay? How wealth inequality is strong in the world. Okay? Good. So what are the outcomes? Poverty is bad, income inequality is bad, wealth inequality is also bad, which causes serious problems in the society. If people are not able to earn enough money, so what will they suffer from? Undernutrition, right? Which means they are not able to intake enough calories, proteins that keeps them healthy, right? Good. What about if they are not able to just avoid hunger? How can they be able to, they get enough education, right? For example, in Uzbekistan, we are very lucky enough that education is free. Okay? Any person in Uzbekistan is eligible to get free education, and it is mandatory.
Except Westminster.
No, this is university level. Okay? I mean about that elementary, middle school. Okay? So you must go to school. If you, for example, if you don't send your son or daughter to school, in their school aid, you will definitely find people knocking on your door, okay, government people, asking you why you are not sending your daughter or son to school, right? Doesn't matter, even he or she is handicapped, there is special schools for them, right? But because of that reason, if you, in our HDI, Human Development Index, if you look at the literacy rate of Uzbekistan, it's over 90%, which is much higher compared to many developed countries, because education is free. Okay? And there are some societies where education is not free. Okay? Education is not free. countries, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Pakistan, okay, India, education is not free. And of course, those people usually live in the environmental degraded areas, okay? Good. Have little political voice. We think that in those poor people, they complain that they are invisible people. No one sees them. No one listens to them, right? So, let's say if that person is illiterate, how can that person be able to appeal? For example, a student, if you have low marks and it was unfairly marked, what will you do? Immediately you will write an appeal, right? We disagree that it was unfair. I am 100% sure that they did some mistakes. What about those people? They are not able to do it because they are illiterate. For example, in Uzbekistan we have what? President's portal, right? Have you ever checked that? If you check it now, it's very nice, okay? You can just directly write a nice piece of letter to any minister, including President himself, okay? Which means, because those poor people are not able to do it, how do they do it? So who will listen to them if they are not able to do it? Okay? Good. Being socially excluded, it depends on some societies, countries, where that caste system is a big problem. All right. You know that in some societies, they have higher rank caste and lower rank caste, which means I don't want to say the name of the country. Though higher rank caste even don't want to look at those castes. Okay. Just they even avoid looking at those people. Okay. And once this problem, if we have those inequality issues, poverty issues, and wealth inequality issues, what's the solution? What should we do? Develop. Taxing. Develop. How do we develop?
Investment.
Nation's wealth.
Nation's wealth. Yes, of course. Yes, we have to increase our GDP. Yes? We have to increase our GDP.
Per capita.
And another question, how should we increase it? Should it be increased by a few people or many? Many, okay? We are not interested about being very wealthy if a few people contribute, who are usually, as Adam Smith says, selfish people. Okay? So it should be done by many people. Okay. So now we will measure inequality. There are several ways of measuring inequality. First of all, let me clarify and let us clarify the difference between poverty and inequality. Are they the same things? Yeah, right? Poverty and inequality is very different. It's very different. For example, there are societies, or you may go to some neighborhood, okay? Neighborhood. Let's suppose that neighborhood consists of, for example, 10 people, all right? The richest person in this society, his monthly salary, let's say, $50 million. Let's suppose, okay? $50 million today. And the poorest person in the society, his salary is, let's say, $100,000 US. The poorest. Is there any sign of poverty in this society? No. Is there a sign of inequality?
Yes.
Very high level of inequality. Okay? Maybe 3 people, they are earning that much a day per month, but the rest are earning that much. If you calculate what? If inequality is so high. But in terms of poverty, there isn't. They are all rich. Okay? $100,000 per month. Okay? Good. So look, now to make all our arguments and some calculations regarding income inequality, we should know, we must know, and we will do it in the seminar too, okay? Size distribution of income. Size distribution of income. let's suppose a country consists of 20 individuals, okay? 20 individuals. And now we chronologically ordered based on their incomes. Number one person is the poorest, okay? Is the poorest person whose income is equal to 0.8 units of money. Whether dollars measured in thousands doesn't matter. The second poorest, his salary is 1 unit of money. And you can see the richest, okay, at the top here, his salary is 15 units of money. Okay? Good. I think you know the difference between quartiles, quintiles, decile. Quartiles, quarter, right? Quintiles is we divide the entire population into 5 equal groups. So now we use quintiles. Alright? If we divide this 20 to 5, then each group 4 people belong to each group. Yes? 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%, 20%. So if you look at the statistics, so the poorest 20% of the society, they make only 5% of total income. The second poorest, they make 9%. But the richest people of the society, the 20%, they make 51% of the total income, which is higher than the sum of 80%. Okay? I think it's easy to understand. So in this column, we have given those 10% scale deciles. All right? Good. So now let's remember this some of the statistics. So poorest 20%. Their total income is 5% of total income, right? The second poorest 20% is 9%. Is it correct? And what about those richest 20%? 51%. Okay. So Kuznets ratio. Simon Kuznets, an American economist, okay, he introduced, okay, that how do we measure and how do we get the level of the degree of poverty between the richest and the poorest. All right. So according to his, calculations, now he introduced that to get that Kuznets ratio, we should divide the total income share of those richest 20%, top 20%, to the bottom 40%. Okay? Bottom 40%. So now, we already know from that table that 20% richest, they make 51% of total income, right? Divided, what about this 40? 40. 5 plus 9, which is 40. So if you get it, it will be some 3.6, okay? 3.6, which is Kuznets ratio. What if in the society there is no income inequality? Everyone is earning the same. Okay? Everyone is earning the same. Which means that 10%, they are making 10% of income. The second 20%, they make 20% of the income. What will be Kuznets ratio equal? 0.5. 0.5. Because the 20, they are 20%, is 40, they are 40, 0.5. Okay? The greater the number, the greater the level of income inequality in this society. Okay? Is the formula. Good. And on the other hand, Max Lorenz, another American economist, he introduced graphical representation of income inequality. Okay? Graphical representation of income inequality. So this is Lorenz curve. Alright? So now, he considered that so on this vertical line represents the percentage of income, which is given in percentage. Doesn't matter, it's not units of money. Okay? So units of, and on the horizontal line, now it's percentage of income recipients. And now this 45 degree line represents line of equality, which means 10% of people receive 10% of income, 20% of people receive 20% of income, 30%, 30%, which means everyone receives the same income. Okay? But this one, this curve is drawn based on the data that we have already seen. Okay? So now, look. 20% of population, the 20%, those 4 people, they are making only 5%. 40%, 14. Yes? 14. So, and so on. And so on. Based on that one, how do we draw this curve? I will show you during the seminar. It's not difficult. A little confusing, but not difficult. We can draw it. So, what does it tell us? If this Lorentz curve, the distance between the line of equality and Lorentz curve gets bigger and bigger, it tells us that income inequality also is bigger in that country. Alright? It's bigger. If it's closer to this line, lower income inequality in the country. Okay? Good. So, again, so this is percentage, okay, from 0 to 100, or you can get it from 0 to 1, okay, as you know, it's also still okay. Good. And now 2 examples. So here, Lorentz curve is closer to the perfect equality line, which represents low level of income inequality, while here the distance is much greater, which represents high level of income inequality. Okay? So, Lord, regarding perfect equality, when everyone in the society earns the same, our Lorentz curve will lie on 45-degree line. Okay? What if only 1% in the society earns everything while the rest earn nothing? So which means if there are 1,000 people living in the country, 999 they are earning nothing, only 1% earns everything.
0.5.
So graphical representation of Lorentz curve. 20% of people earn 0. 50% 0. 99% 0. Okay? And there is only 1 person who earns everything. So Lorentz curve will be on these horizontal and vertical line. Okay? That in the case of perfect inequality. Okay? Perfect inequality. Good. So which situation do you prefer? First, this one, right? Of course, compared to this one, it's very bad. Why? Do you prefer that perfect equality?
No. So it becomes like communism.
It becomes like communism. Yes. Okay. It's like communism. What's bad about that? Perfect equality. If there is perfect equality, everyone earns the same. It means that there is no incentive to work harder. Okay. There is no motivation to develop more. Everyone is sufficient with what he is doing. So if one problem had, during Soviet Union, it was one of the main issues. All right? People were not very motivated to do some, work on themselves, to do their best. If they were trying to do, for example, private entrepreneurship during Soviet Union, it was illegal. They could just end up behind the bars, okay, and spend the rest of their life in prison. So, those cases are not preferred. Okay, good. So, and now we have an analysis method, which is widely used, which data is available with Gini coefficient. Okay? Gini. Corrado Gini. Italian statistician, he just 100 years ago, more than 100 years ago, he introduced that Gini coefficient for us. Okay? So look, how do we calculate that Gini coefficient? It's very simple. Now he uses Lorentz curve again. Alright? Now there is line of perfect equality and line of Lorentz curve. So how do we calculate Gini coefficient? Now we divide this area A between line of equality and Lorentz curve. We should calculate it. Okay? And we have to divide through this entire triangle area. So area A is shaded area, and area B is A. So we can easily find it, right? The Gini coefficient now is equal to area A divided by area A plus area B. Okay? So how do we calculate it? It's not difficult. It's not difficult. So, and now I'll show you the video link that you can learn it by yourself, or otherwise, because we have to, it ranges from 0 to 1. Now I will explain how. What one country, in one country, if the situation is perfect equality, what will be Gini coefficient equal to? Perfect equality, which means Lorentz curve is lying on this line, right? Which means area A will be equal to 0, right? Lorentz curve is 0. Area A is equal to 0, so now perfect equality, all right? So sorry, equality. So area A is 0, which is equal to 0. In the case of perfect inequality, this Lorentz curve, I said, it lies on this 0, right here. Where this area B is going to be equal to? Now shaded area gets entire area. So our B is equal to 0. Perfect inequality. So now A over A plus area B is equal to, which is equal to 1. So which means Gini coefficient ranges from 0 to 1. If you want, let's say, Uzbekistan's this Lorentz curve is given with some function of x in the power of 4.5. Okay? Let's say it is our country's Lorentz curve. If you want to calculate it, I'm not going to ask you to do it later. So it's if you want to, for some students maybe integral is 0 from to 1. Yes. So there is 200 that I will explain if you want later. So and this is x perfect equality, okay, function minus that Lorentz curve function. If you find it, if it's for Uzbekistan, you will find what Gini coefficient is equal is for Uzbekistan. Okay? Every country has different measure of Lorentz curve. Every country. Here is the link. You can watch easily.
Can you explain the formula?
So now we don't have time for that one. So this is the one. So therefore I just included here a link, okay, which you can watch very short, very easy, okay, very easy. So Gini coefficient, okay, it satisfies 4 very important principles. First one is unanimity principle. What does it mean? When we see country A, let's say their names are not given here. Alright? That just we see that there are 2 countries with Gini coefficients of 5 and 0.6. So in which country that inequality level is higher?
B.
In country B. What do you think? In which country life is more difficult?
In the country B.
In the country of B? How do you know? We don't know. Okay? Gini coefficient does not tell us whether a country A or B is richer.
Which one is the better?
Okay? So it can be, this country can be Mali, one of the poorest countries in Africa, and this country can be, for example, one of the Germany, let's say. Alright? So Gini, it's anonymous. It doesn't tell us which one is bad, which one is good. Okay? So this one. And scale independence principle. It gives us that, vertical line. doesn't matter how that society, how much society the income is, whether it's trillions of dollars or thousands of dollars, we just give it the percentage scale. This is it. Okay? Regarding population too. So population independence. Here, if we get to China, billions of India, billions of people, more than 1 billion people, we can just give percentage scale. Okay? And there are few countries where the population is only 100,000 or less. And the last one is transfer principle, which means if we take some portion of rich people's income and distribute it to poor people, our Lorentz curve will shift here, yes? And Gini coefficient will be smaller, all right? Smaller. Statistics, according to statistics, if you find a country between this range from 0.5 to 0.7, you can just confidently say that in that country, inequality level is high. If it's between this one, relatively low. Okay? Good. So now, Kuznets inverted U hypothesis. Listen, during the seminar, I will try to explain you that there are three typologies of income distribution: modern sector enlargement, modern sector enrichment, and traditional sector enrichment. Those three. Let's suppose. Now, according to Kuznets' inverted U-shaped hypothesis. So now he's arguing that this vertical line represents Gini coefficient. The higher the Gini coefficient, higher income inequality in the society. And here is GNI, gross national income. So he argues that if countries GNI starts growing, okay, that income inequality in the society also will grow. And he said, when it reaches a certain level, then it will start falling. Okay? And he explains that finding based on that modern sector enlargement. In Uzbekistan, in any country, we have traditional sector and modern sector. In Uzbekistan, for example, agriculture is traditional sector. And now modern sector, we have that electronics, yes, many other new know-how that we are doing is modern. Look, I will explain it. Now, according to that modern sector enlargement, country tries to enlarge its modern sector. Okay? Let's suppose in Uzbekistan we want to enlarge our modern sector, give more priority to electronic business or some automobile making, blah blah blah. What do you think? If we decide to do it today, do we have enough skilled human capital to be employed? We don't, yes? So if we want to expand it, what should we do? We have to attract people, right? How do we attract those employees? By paying more salary, right? We pay more salary. And they are very attractive. It's very interesting. Oh, that now economics, so now it's I don't need that field because that modern sector they need more IT guys or some chemical engineers, blah blah blah, programming. So therefore, I will go to that field instead. Anyway, so look, in this point, now government is increasing its modern sector, which means people, it's increasing. And now more skilled people are employed in that sector. People learn those skills and try to work in that sector. And which means their incomes are relatively higher than traditional sector, agriculture. As a result, when it gets increased, do you understand? Yes. Okay. And when will it reach this point? There are too many supplies of skilled labor. All right. Now, because it was very demanding, very high, paid jobs. Everyone, goes to those universities. Now they have enough skills, and now there is too much supply of skilled labor. But there isn't that much demand. What will happen then? Their salaries will start going down. What about those people in traditional sector? Because everyone wants to be skilled, and most of them, majority of people, they are already skilled. While only minority left in traditional sector. So which means there is less supply of traditional supply, so low skilled labor. If there is less supply, their salaries will increase. Okay? As a result, income inequality will go down. Alright? I will ask you during the seminar to explain me again. So, what about poverty? First one is absolute poverty. Okay? As we already explained, any person, individuals, whose daily income is less than $1.25 per day, measured in PPP, they are considered to be absolutely poor people. So as I already explained, those people are hardly able to survive. Alright? And there is headcount index. In the seminar, we will do some calculations, which means those people who belong to absolutely poor, okay, we divide the number of absolutely poor people to the total population, which is headcount index. And then you may ask a natural question, how do we come up with $1.25? Okay. In early 90s, it was only $1. Then, after a few years, they made it $1.8. And today, we are using $1.25 or $2. Okay. So it's again, household surveys are conducted. So from medical science, those experts, they visit households and they check how much ingredients there are, calories it's needed for them, protein, blah, 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 clothing. Based on their survey, these numbers are given for us. Okay? Good. And we have relative poverty. Okay? Relative poverty. It's, it depends on the society. Let's say, this university, Westminster International University in Tashkent, is considered to be one of the most expensive schools in Uzbekistan, right? Which indicates, which has very high correlation with those students' parents' income, which indicates those students, you belong to some household where your parents' salary is relatively high. Okay? Relatively high. Maybe here among you, there is one student whose father is the richest, who earns maybe thousands of dollars a day. Okay? And we have the poorest, whose father, monthly salary is 10 million. The poorest. Relatively. Do you understand? So therefore I give this picture. The guy that's in society, he has $1 million, which means he's very happy, he's very rich. Okay? There is another guy who thinks he is very poor because, in his society, he is the only one who drives Malibu, while all others are driving Ferraris. Therefore, he wants to commit suicide. Okay? So I think it's clear for you, relative poverty, we consider. And if you look at the data, regarding absolute poverty, now look, this blue shaded area represents people living on the absolute poverty line in East Asia and Pacific. East Asia and Pacific. If you look, the number of absolutely poor people was the greatest people in the early 1980s. And that significantly reduced. Significantly reduced. It's mostly because of China. for example, in 1981, the number of, the absolute poverty level in China was 88%. Which means 88% of Chinese people were absolutely poor. After, so many years, after 30 years, today, they are absolutely, that these 80% absolutely poor people only made 2%. Okay? So dramatic change. It's mostly because of China. Okay? That and another one, if you look at this white shaded area, sub-Saharan Africa, where absolute poverty level was very low, but now it's increasing. Okay? Which is so bad. Chronic poverty. What about chronic poverty? It is the poorest of the poor. Okay? Absolutely poor people, they belong, so their income is less than 1.25. But we consider chronically or ultra poor people whose daily salary is less than $50. Okay, $50. And they are mainly concentrated in India and Africa. All right. And that International Food Policy Research Institute, they use the data that I exactly don't know to remember, but it's not a long time ago. The number of those the chronic poor people was 162 million, which is more than 5 times of Uzbekistan's population. So therefore, when you hear thousands of people die out of hunger, do not get surprised, because there are so many people who are living in that chronic poverty situation. Okay? Good? Yeah, of course it's not good, I'm just saying. Alright? So, and we have multidimensional poverty, which means dual cutoff. A person is poor, plus that person has problems with health, education, and standards of living. Let's say a person can be, let's get a rich person. He lost his job, okay, or he lost all of his wealth in one day, okay. He's healthy enough, okay, and he's educated, and he has all of those, the standard items in his house. But his salary is close to zero. We cannot consider that person as multidimensional poor person, okay, household. So to be multidimensionally poor, that person should be poor, plus he must have some of these problems. We will calculate it during the seminar. How to do it, I will explain. If the calculation shows that the index is more than 0.3, then we consider that household as multidimensionally poor household. Okay? Multidimensional poor household. So any child died in the family gets the scale of 1/6. Okay? And not even one household member has completed 5 years of schooling, it gets that. If we have just these 2 problems in the household, we consider that household as multidimensional poor. Okay? Good. Here are some data. In Niger, the multidimensional poverty index is equal to 0.6. Very high. Followed by Ethiopia, 0.56. Good. And high poverty groups. What do we mean? We were talking about individuals. First one is people. Most of the poor people are concentrated in rural areas. Alright? If you compare the number of poor people living in rural areas and urban areas, the number is always greater in rural areas, because less job opportunities, less salary, okay, and so on. Here is some data. 80%, okay, in African countries and Asian countries, 80% of poor people, they live in rural areas, okay? In Latin America, it's 50%. And the second group is children and women. You know that men earn higher salary, right? All around the world, compared to ladies. But we are not talking about that. There are societies where women are strongly discriminated, okay? Especially, in those societies, the situation is too bad with ladies if they don't have husbands, okay? And in some cultures, ladies they are totally banned of doing any job work, okay? Work. So they don't work because of that. And the last one is ethnic minorities, and indigenous people. I think you know the meaning of indigenous people, okay? The statistics show that in any country where there are indigenous people, for example, in America, in Australia, there are indigenous people, right? In Africa. So the statistics show, for example, in Mexico, when they checked the poverty level among indigenous people, they found that 80% of those indigenous people are poor. But while they checked non-indigenous, it was only 18%, okay? So what are the causes of poverty? These are all the causes of poverty. Okay? We have still time, don't worry. First one is historical constraint. There are many countries, they are stuck in that poverty trap. They are not able to improve their lives because of those social political problems, because of war, climate and culture. Culture also influences in that. In many African countries, one biggest problem for poverty is their culture. Okay, tribal, the societies, they always, discriminate the other one. They don't give any opportunity to improve their lives. Okay, in East Asia too, we have some countries, and you know about the poor bad policies, right? And corruption is very clear for you, right? Inequality and poor health. Okay, inequality above the poverty line. Look. Now we talked about those people who are living below poverty line, right? And why should we worry about inequality level, which is to the people, living above poverty line? If inequality level is very high, and people are living, let's say, $3 a day, let's say that, if you measure in PPP, most of the population, will they be able to take their children to good schools? No. Inequality is very high. So, look, human capital is one of the most important indicators for economic development. All right? Human capital doesn't consist of rich people's children. It consists of all of us, including poor and rich. So, if those societies with high level of income inequality do not give opportunity for those poor people to educate their children, in the long run they will have what? Human capital problems. Okay? Which is very bad for the economic development. So therefore, now those with high inequality, they are not able to apply for any student loans, okay? And so on. Social conflict is clear. If high inequality, there is always uncertainty in the country. Okay? It's just simply high level of inequality is considered to be unfair. Good. This is homework for you. Okay? During the seminar, I will ask you the meaning of this statement. Why economic growth does not conflict, okay, with reduction of poverty. Some economists, they say that if we want to reduce poverty, okay, if we reduce poverty, and it will negatively influence on economic growth. So you should prove it that it's not true, okay? Regarding workshop, you clearly understood, you must read, okay? This is the book, pages are given, and our lecture is over. Thank you very much.